My boss secretly took my $2 million AI system and gave it to his son. But 90 days later, my hidden code exposed his evil scheme to the entire world. I should have seen it coming. The signs were there, scattered across months of subtle changes at Morgan Technologies. The way Robert Morgan, our CEO, started bringing his son Patrick to executive meetings. The way he'd interrupt my presentations to ask Patrick's opinion, despite his fresh out-of-college status and complete lack of real-world programming experience. But when you're deep in code, building something revolutionary, it's easy to miss the office politics swirling around you. My name is Michael Sullivan, and for the past 3 years, I've been developing a predictive maintenance system that could revolutionize the manufacturing industry. Not just another monitoring system, but an AI-driven platform that could predict equipment failures weeks before they happened, potentially saving companies millions in downtime and repairs. It started as a small project, something I tinkered with during late nights when the office was empty. I'd spent 15 years in industrial automation, watching factories lose millions to unexpected equipment failures. I knew there had to be a better way. "You're on to something big here, Mike," Robert had said 2 years ago when I first showed him the prototype. His eyes had lit up with dollar signs as I demonstrated how the system had predicted a critical failure in our test facility 3 weeks before it happened. "Whatever resources you need, they're yours." And he'd meant it. Back then, the company poured $2 million into development. I built a team, installed sensors throughout partner facilities, and gathered data. We worked endless hours, fueled by coffee and the conviction that we were creating something that mattered. The system evolved beyond my wildest expectations. It didn't just predict failures, it learned, adapted, and understood the unique patterns of each facility it monitored. The neural network I designed could detect subtleties that even experienced maintenance engineers missed. "This is impressive work," Patrick had said last month, hovering over my shoulder as I fine-tuned the core algorithm. "But wouldn't it be better if we simplified it, made it more accessible?" I should have recognized the danger in his words. Patrick, with his fresh MBA and zero programming experience, had been appointed as project oversight director 3 months ago. His suggestions always centered around making things simpler, more marketable, user-friendly corporate buzzwords that masked his fundamental lack of understanding. "The complexity is what makes it powerful," I tried to explain. "The multi-layered neural network allows for—" Yes, he'd cut me off. "But think about the average user. They don't need all these advanced features. The average user, as if our clients, major manufacturing corporations with billions in equipment, were casual app users looking for a simple interface." Yesterday, everything came to a head. I was preparing for our biggest client presentation yet, a potential $50 million contract with Global Manufacturing Solutions. 3 years of work, countless sleepless nights, all leading to this moment. Then, Robert called me into his office. "Mike, take a seat," he said, not looking up from his monitor. Patrick was already there, practically bouncing with barely contained excitement. "We need to discuss the project's direction." I felt a chill despite the warm office air. "The GMS presentation is ready to go," I said. "The system's performance in their pilot facility exceeded all expectations." About that, Robert finally looked at me, his expression carefully neutral. "We've decided to take things in a different direction. Patrick has some excellent ideas for streamlining the system, making it more commercially viable." "Streamlining?" I leaned forward. "Robert, the complexity is what makes it work. You can't just—" "Actually," Patrick interrupted, "we can. As the new head of development, I'll be overseeing all technical aspects moving forward." The room seemed to tilt slightly. "Head of development?" Robert cleared his throat. "Yes, we feel the project needs fresh eyes, a new perspective. Patrick has an excellent grasp of market dynamics. He doesn't know the first thing about neural networks." I stood up, my chair scraping back. "The system architecture alone took a year to perfect. You can't just—" "We can, and we are," Robert's voice hardened. "The company owns all intellectual property rights. Your services are no longer required, effective immediately." I looked between them, Robert's stern face, Patrick's smug smile, and understood. This had been the plan all along. Wait until the system was built, then push out the builder. Security will help you clear out your office, Robert added. Patrick will handle the GMS presentation next week. As I packed my things under the watchful eye of a security guard, I caught snippets of Patrick's voice from my former office, already on the phone with GMs. Yes, we're very excited about the streamlined version we'll be presenting. They thought they'd won. They thought they could just take 3 years of my work, slap a new interface on it, and claim it as their own. What they didn't know, what they couldn't know, was that I'd built something special into the system's core architecture, a small subroutine buried so deep in the code that even a thorough review wouldn't find it. A feature that would activate exactly 90 days after any unauthorized changes to the core neural network architecture. I left quietly that day, carrying my box of personal items past curious coworkers. Let Patrick play with his streamlined version. Let him make his changes, thinking he was improving things. The clock was already ticking. 90 days until the GMS quarterly review, 90 days until they learned what happens when you try to simplify complexity you don't understand, 90 days until my code showed everyone exactly who its real creator was. Walking to my car, I couldn't help but smile. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't an explosion, it's a carefully timed revelation. The countdown had begun. 60 days can feel like an eternity when you're waiting for justice, but when you're preparing to expose a multi-million-dollar fraud, time moves surprisingly fast. I spent the first week after my firing in a state of controlled rage, methodically documenting everything, every email, every meeting note, every line of code I'd written over the past 3 years. My apartment's spare bedroom transformed into an evidence room, walls covered with printouts and sticky notes tracking the project's evolution. Then came the message from Diana, my former lead systems analyst. "They're breaking it, Mike," her text read. "Patrick's streamlining is destroying the core functionality. The test results are all over the place." I wasn't surprised. The neural network I'd built was like a delicate ecosystem. Change one part without understanding the whole, and everything falls apart. But I needed details. We met at a small coffee shop far from the office. Diana looked nervous, constantly checking over her shoulder as she slid a USB drive across the table. "Patrick's ordered a complete simplification of the interface," she said, disgust evident in her voice. "He's removing safety checks, bypassing validation protocols, says they're unnecessarily complex." I picked up the drive, careful to keep my expression neutral. "How's the team taking it? Half have resigned already." "The ones who stayed," she shook her head. "They're documenting everything just like you asked. But Mike, the GMS presentation..." She hesitated. "What about it?" "They're faking the results. Patrick couldn't get the system to produce the predictions they promised, so they're manually entering false data. They're going to demonstrate a completely fabricated version to GMs." Perfect. Exactly what I'd expected them to do. Back home, I reviewed the files Diana had brought. Patrick had done exactly what I predicted, stripped away the complex validation systems, removed the redundancy checks, simplified the neural network architecture to something he could understand and take credit for. And in doing so, he'd activated every trigger I'd hidden in the code. You see, the system I'd built wasn't just smart, it was self-aware in a very specific way. It knew its own architecture, understood its own complexity. Any attempt to simplify its core functions would be logged, documented, and stored in an encrypted partition that Patrick didn't even know existed. Every change he made was another piece of evidence, another nail in his coffin. 45 days before the quarterly review, I received another message, this time from Marcus in quality assurance. "Systems throwing weird errors," he wrote. "Random predictions, false positives, Patrick's blaming the hardware." I smiled. The second phase had begun. The system wasn't just logging the changes anymore, it was starting to react to them. Subtle at first, just enough to create doubt. Through my network of former colleagues, I kept tabs on Patrick's increasing desperation. He hired external consultants, brought in efficiency experts, even tried to recruit some of my former team members who had quit. None of it helped. 30 days before the review, the system started showing its teeth. Critical predictions began failing spectacularly. Equipment that the simplified system declared perfectly fine would break down hours later. The neural network, its delicate balance destroyed by Patrick's improvements, was now demonstrating exactly why its complexity was necessary. But Patrick, backed into a corner, did exactly what I'd expected. Instead of admitting failure, he doubled down. "We've got the presentation data ready," Diana reported during another clandestine coffee meeting. "All completely fabricated. They're going to show GMs a perfect prediction record, claim the system is exceeding all benchmarks." "And the real data?" She smiled grimly. "All safely archived, just like you asked. Every failed prediction, every false reading, every piece of evidence showing how they've destroyed the system's functionality." I nodded, feeling a strange calm. The pieces were falling into place. 2 weeks before the review, I made my move, an anonymous email to GMS's chief technology officer. "You might want to ask for raw data during the quarterly review. The presentation numbers seem too good to be true, just enough to plant a seed of doubt." 1 week before the review, Patrick made his final, fatal mistake. In a desperate attempt to fix the system's increasingly erratic behavior, he ordered a complete override of the core neural network protocols. "He's wiped out the original architecture completely," Diana texted, "replaced it with his streamlined version." And with that, the countdown entered its final phase. The hidden subroutine, dormant until now, had been waiting for exactly this moment. When Patrick erased my original architecture, he unknowingly activated the system's final protocol. In my apartment, I pulled up the secure terminal I'd maintained. A single command prompt blinked, waiting. I thought about all the nights I'd spent building this system, the pride I'd felt when it first successfully predicted a critical failure, the betrayal in Robert's eyes when he chose nepotism over merit. I typed a single command, "Initialize protocol revelation." The terminal responded, "Protocol activated. Execution in 7 days." 7 days until the quarterly review. 7 days until Patrick would stand in front of GMS's executive board, ready to present his simplified version of my work. 7 days until everyone would learn what happens when you try to take credit for someone else's genius. I closed the laptop and poured myself a drink. The system was armed, the trap was set, and all the players were in position. Now it was just a matter of waiting for the curtain to rise on the final act. The day of the GMS quarterly review dawned bright and clear. I arrived at Morgan Technology's headquarters at precisely 8:45 in the morning, wearing my best suit and carrying a manila envelope. The security guard at the front desk did a double take. "Mr. Sullivan, I thought you—" "I have an invitation," I said smoothly, sliding across an email printout from GMS's chief technology officer for the quarterly review presentation. He checked the paper, made a call, then reluctantly handed me a visitor's badge. There, in the main conference room, I could feel the stares as I walked through the office. Former colleagues quickly looked away, some whispering behind their hands. Through the glass walls of my old office, I caught a glimpse of Patrick in a crisp new suit, frantically reviewing his presentation slides. The main conference room was already filling up. GMS executives in expensive suits mingled with Morgan Technology's management team. Robert Morgan stood at the front, looking confident until he saw me enter. His face went through a fascinating series of emotions: shock, anger, fear, finally settling on forced politeness. "Michael," he said tightly, "this is a private meeting." "Actually," a deep voice cut in, "I invited him." James Wheeler, GMS's chief technology officer, stepped forward. Given his role in developing the system, I thought his input might be valuable. Robert's forced smile became brittle. "Of course, though I should mention that Michael is no longer associated with the project." "Yes," Wheeler nodded. "So I've heard. Shall we begin?" I took a seat at the back of the room as Patrick started his presentation. He'd clearly rehearsed extensively, smoothly moving through slides showing perfect prediction rates, flawless performance metrics, and glowing testimonials. "As you can see," he said, clicking to a particularly dramatic graph, "our streamlined version has achieved a 99.8% accuracy rate in predicting equipment failures." "Impressive," Wheeler commented. Could we see the raw data behind these results? Patrick's smile flickered slightly. Of course, though the technical details might be a bit complex. Try us, Wheeler said dryly. As Patrick fumbled to pull up the data, I glanced at my watch. 9:27 in the morning, right on schedule. Every screen in the room suddenly went black. Just a minor technical, Patrick started, but the words died in his throat as the screens came back to life, now showing a very different presentation. Unauthorized architecture modification detected, announced the system's AI voice, the one Patrick had tried to remove, initiating comprehensive system audit. The screens filled with scrolling data, the real data, showing every failed prediction, every error, every simplified component that had compromised the system's integrity. But more importantly, it showed the original architecture, my architecture, and exactly how Patrick's changes had systematically destroyed its functionality. "What is this?" Robert demanded, standing up. "This," I said, speaking for the first time, "is what happens when you try to simplify something you don't understand." The system continued its merciless exposition. Split screens showed Patrick's fabricated results alongside the real performance data. Email threads appeared, documenting his orders to fake results and override safety protocols. The neural network you tried to simplify, I explained, standing up, wasn't just a collection of algorithms. It was a self-aware system designed to protect itself from exactly this kind of unauthorized modification. "You sabotaged us," Patrick accused, his face red. "No," Wheeler cut in. "He protected his work, and apparently just in time." He turned to face Robert. "We were prepared to sign a $50 million contract today. Now I'm wondering what else you've been lying about." Robert's face had turned an interesting shade of gray. "Now, James, let's not be hasty." "Actually," I interrupted, opening my manila envelope, "you might want to see these first." I handed Wheeler a stack of documents, the original system architecture, development logs, and proof of authorship, along with evidence of how this streamlined version had already failed at 3 test sites, resulting in equipment damage that was covered up. The room erupted in chaos. GMS executives huddled around the documents while Morgan Technology's management team tried desperately to explain. Through it all, the system continued its presentation, methodically exposing every flaw, every lie, every corner cut. Patrick slumped in his chair, his carefully rehearsed confidence shattered. Robert stood frozen, watching 3 years of deception unravel in minutes. Wheeler finally stood up, silencing the room. "I think we've seen enough." He turned to me. "Mr. Sullivan, would you be interested in discussing your system, the real system, over lunch? GM's is very interested in working with the actual innovator behind this technology." I smiled. I would be honored. I gathered my documents, then paused at the door. "Oh, and Patrick, the system's core architecture will fully restore itself in about an hour. Try not to break it again." The next few weeks were a blur of meetings, contracts, and new beginnings. GM's not only signed a deal with my newly formed company, but also invested in expanding the system's capabilities. Several of my former team members, including Diana and Marcus, joined me in the venture. Morgan Technologies? They survived, barely. The scandal of the failed deception and Patrick's tampering cost them several major contracts. Robert took early retirement, and Patrick found himself working in middle management at a small software company where I hear he's learning the value of thorough documentation. As for me, I learned some valuable lessons about trust, about preparation, and about the importance of building systems that can protect themselves. My new company's core value, complexity isn't a bug, it's a feature. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemies, it's about building something so robust, so intricate, that it can reveal the truth all on its own. You just have to be patient enough to let the system work. The neural network, it's still running, still predicting, still protecting itself. And every now and then, when I'm reviewing its code late at night, I swear I can feel it humming with satisfaction, like a watchdog that successfully protected its home. Because in the end, good code, like good karma, always finds its way home. 3 months after the GMS presentation, I received an unexpected email from Robert Morgan. Short, Just 2 lines, you built it better than I understood. I'm sorry we didn't see that sooner, I never replied. Some revelations speak for themselves. Sitting in my new office overlooking the city, I often think about those 90 days of waiting, about the satisfaction of watching a carefully laid plan unfold exactly as designed. But mostly, I think about the lesson at the heart of it all. In the world of code, as in life, true complexity can't be simplified without consequences. Every system, every person, has layers of intricacy that make them what they are. Try to strip those away, try to take credit for someone else's genius, and you might just find that the system has ways of fighting back. As for the original code, it's still out there, running in thousands of facilities, predicting failures, preventing disasters. Each installation carries a small signature, very deep in its core. Complexity is not a bug, it's the feature that keeps us honest. Patrick never did figure out how to read that part of the code, but then again, he never really understood what he was trying to simplify in the first place. Some things, after all, are better left complex.